Shall we begin? Let me introduce Mr. Lee from ABB Korea. He has lots of experience regarding the cross-border, and he has lots of experience in the business side as well. And I think he will also give us a very interesting and valuable speech for all of us. Mr. Lee.
So first of all, thank you for the invitation. And John said that he's under pressure after ambassador. I'm under severe pressure after both of you. I do not know what to do, really. I briefly introduce who is ABB. ABB, we have two founders. One founder is from Sweden, from Asia. Another one is BDC from Switzerland. So this is two founders. And in 1988, we merged. So Asia Bravo, very in short, we call ABB. So after that, we have acquire, merge, and do many things. Actually, ABB today, we have one brand, more than one brand. However, that we have consolidated more than 1,000 brands globally. So I saw that there are some words there that the think global, act regional. Have you seen that one outside? I believe that the founder of this one is Percy Barnaby, which is our first CEO in ABB. He said, think global, act local. Act local. And then ABB possibly is one of the organizations. I still believe that is very interesting. We call ourselves multi-domestic, which means to say that we do not have the country of origin. Okay, so when we are operating in Korea, we are Korean. When we operate in China, we are Chinese. So this is what we call multi-domestic. And then this is also true that the ABB is forming by merging and consolidating many companies across the group. So what ABB do is that the two things. So we are expert in transport the electron from the power plant to any plant. So this is what we do along the way that we are transporting the electron. Another one is more on the industry side. We help to convert the raw material to the final product. So this is our business, to transport electron and convert the raw material to the output. Now for today's also, I also have a topic about the peace, conflict in relation to the prosperity of the business. Hopefully that I would like to share with you what is the impact on this conflict, peace in this perspective. And we just say that the many leaders they can actively want to do something. However, in the business world sometimes they are pretty passive. To react. How are we going to respond to the change? And we have to respond fast, otherwise we don't survive. Okay, to me that there are five biggest risks or enemy that will affect the economic or business prosperity. The number one we are talking about is the uncertainty of peace. Sometimes you have a peace, your war is certain. Worse is that you are uncertain. So when you are uncertain, a lot of decision is very difficult to make. So the second one is difficult to us is the unreconcilable conflicts and differences. You have a conflict, you have not reconcile, and then stay there for very long. So when you stay there for very long, what do you do? It's an impact. Okay? So business need clarity. And the third part is that the certain change in country policies, regulation. We see a lot now. So when we invest a lot, certain policy change, then possibly are stuck. So when we're stuck, we're really stuck. So we have a responsibility for the shareholders. What do we do? So this is important. In contrary, it's also very important that if the country policy, law and regulation does not change fast, this is equally bad. One don't change, one change too fast, equally bad. Okay, so I think that a lot of certainty that we need in this aspect. Another aspect that is talk did not touch so much today is the disruptive change in technology. This is huge impact. When we talk about 5G, 5G is going to change the world, change the way that we live. change the way that we move, change the way we produce, to change everybody without a miss. So I would like to talk a little bit on the disruptive in this piece here. Now, I think all these kind of problems, peace, conflict, we need a wisdom and to solve the problem together with an open mind and open heart. A lot of power, like from Donald Trump, so I win, you lost, or win-win. This is a lot of things we are talking about here. So this is how I think, what exactly caused this problem? I learned from my colleagues a few years ago saying that the human brain actually has 3 brains. Do you know what 3 brains that the human being has? So the first one is the reptile brain, like crocodile, is responsive. So they strive, they fight for survival. When they get trapped, they attack. So that is the reptile brain. The second one is a mammal brain. So this brain is emotional. They like comfort. They look for comfort. They do not like confrontation. They're looking for peace, put it this way. The third one is a human brain. So this one is they have a logic, thinking. This is the 3 brain. And then when we see that they're all the leaders or individual, these 3 brains affect what your behavior. Okay, let's test a little bit here. So when we ask about, so if you want to choose between the conflict and the peace, what do you choose? Possibly it's the peace. Why? Which brain is functioning? Mammal brain. So you do not have the reptile because peace is what you automatically choose. Okay, when we talk about the conflict, which brain is actually functioning? Conflict. It's more difficult. It depends whether you're creating a conflict or you're responding to a conflict. So possibly 3 brains are functioning. Okay, say for example, like Donald Trump want to say, okay, I start the war to North Korea. So what North Korea brain will work? Wrapped up. Okay, so this is how it works. And when we look at these 3 brains, fortunately or unfortunately, the reptile brain and the mammal brain act 5 times faster than the human brain. On the other hand, the human brain acts 5 times slower. All right, this is very interesting. So I think the scholar have a lot of time to think. When you are in the war or in the conflict environment, you do not have a lot of time to think. Then what do? You depend on the reptile and you depend on the mammal piece here. Okay, now. And these 3 brains, I have to say that is great over today that we see. So we contributed by all the people. The more the power that you have, the more influential you are, either way. All right, and this will continue indefinitely, as long as the humans still have these 3 brains. Okay, so in this case, I think that we have to embrace that we have no choice. Coming to a little bit on the Korea perspective, when we look at the Korea economics after the post-Korean War, I checked the GDP per capita number in South Korea is $158 in 1960. Do you know what was the GDP per capita in Malaysia? I'm Malaysian. It was 235. Philippines, 245. How about North Korea? I was told in 1960, the GDP per capita of North Korea is higher than South Korea. Right? So around 70s, the leaders of South Korea went to Southeast Asia. They look at Malaysia, Philippines. They are so prosperous. They are so nice. They have a mission, want to become Malaysia and Singapore or Philippines one day. Okay. When we look at the GDP per capita again in 2018, South Korea GDP per capita last year was 31,000 US dollar. Malaysia, 11,000. Philippines, 3,001. North Korea, don't know, but very small. Okay, so what happened? I think you talk about certain peace period that really bring North South Korea into a different level. Okay, it's a peace, there's a leadership, there's a lot of desire, mobilize the human capital in order to really bring South Korea that we see today here. And China have the same thing. For around 40, 50 years ago, actually Deng Xiaoping was inspired by Singapore. Inspired by Singapore. So they want to open up, they want to start the Singapore model. They want to industrialize the China. So the first concept that introduced was in Suzhou. This is the Suzhou Industry Estate. That is a basic model that the China growth since then, 40 years ago. Now after 40 years, we can see now is incredible. It's become a superpower. Now they compete head to head with US nowadays. Okay. Now when we look at the US now, so Donald Trump somehow, to me, they like to quit to become the part of the members. They quit the Paris Agreement. So they quit recently. I think they quit this multi-billion arms deal in the UN, and then they also pull out the Iran nuclear deal. So a lot of these things happen. I remember that 3-4 years ago, I was tasked to set up to reset up the organization in Iran. So we tried to recruit around 30-40 people in Iran, and we definitely have the people started to work in ABB Iran. After they pull out, we are stuck. So we have to close the company again and come out. So this is not good for the business. Not good for the business. So all these conflicts that have a big implication to the business here. Okay, and then from the peace-wise, in South Korea, they have to pay a lot of money to US to finance the army base, and at the same time, they also need to buy a lot of weapons, not to fight, but to prevent war from happening, I believe. Hopefully, this is the way that they look at it. And the installation of the SAT in South Korea caused a very painful for Lotte. Okay, Lotte in China closed down. They have a Lotte Mart, they have a Lotte Mart in China established. After this one, they closed down. So this is something that when someone have a conflict, someone have a threat, so they will do something. So some brain is a function in this manner here. We are talking about the Cold War. Previously, the Cold War possibly is based on a weapon. The new Cold War possibly is also based on the technology. So they have a competition, strategic competition, as you mentioned. Possibly the new technology is something that we can see in the future will be the conflict. Now we can see that from US, they decided to stop Huawei. Huawei possibly is having the best technology, 5G technology in the world, based on the chairman of Huawei. They say that any country, any company, in the next 2-3 years, they are not able to catch up with the technology that they have. This is what they claim. Now a lot of companies stop buying, stop buying, and then a lot of countries continue to evaluate whether to join which camp. They're forced to choose, or how do we choose correctly? We do not know. But definitely this is something that we need to watch. So the good thing for the multinational company is that we can choose which country to sell to which country. Possibly this is the best for the multinational company that in this dilemma, of course. Okay, and when we look at again the conflict for Korea, the US and China conflicts. I do not know how many people know that the Korean GDP. Korean GDP, 50% of the Korean GDP rely on export. 24% rely they sell to China. I think around 12% to US. As you mentioned, incredibly 8% they sell to Vietnam. So these three countries is almost 50% of the export. This is incredible. So the dependency on Korea on export is very high. So in case of all, I mean that whichever country, whichever country, they will have a serious impact on Korean economy. Especially now, it's definitely not a good news because of the US and China is having a serious conflict. So this morning I also watched the news. Like now US banned Huawei, who possibly is the beneficiary in short term, possibly Samsung. Or Samsung can sell more mobile phone, whereby that the Huawei cannot sell. So let's see. Now I touch a little bit on the 5G. 5G is really evolving and evolve fast. How the 5G landed up, we do not know, but definitely it's going to change the world, even change the world orders. And in the future, when we talk about 5G, I also learned something about 5G. In the future, this is a matter of network. So we should say the speed of the 5G is so fast, so fast. If you want to use the conventional, so-called the tools to detect, it's always too late. Now we are talking about 1 millisecond to respond. So no tools is able to track. So in the future, whatever plane you have, whatever missile you have, as long as you're able to hack in, the whole thing change. There's no war. There's a different type of war we are talking about. So we are talking about the network world. In the future, we are even more connected. With the more the world divided, I do not know what is the connectivity means, but definitely that's going to impact everybody, including how we do business. What business are we doing in the future? Okay, so there's a lot of problems I mentioned. Is that all? Unfortunately, no. I think we have a lot of young leaders here. I think that you have a lot to do in the future. I'm going to retire soon. And you still have a lot to do. So from my perspective, this is really, I spent 2 years in Korea. I just list out 8 points that possibly will affect the economic prosperity for South Korea. So number 1 is the North Korea issue. Potentially you have a 3 options. Either you unify, either you learn from China, one country, two system. One country, two system with China, Hong Kong, China, Macau. We are talking about China, Taiwan. Let's see whether they will be successful or totally independent country. When we look at the world map that I like to see, South Korea is under the peninsula. If you are isolated by North Korea, South Korea is actually an island. An island. So it's actually quite difficult. Quite difficult in this perspective to connect the world in the Belt and Road that we are talking about. We have to China has to rethink, the Korea has to rethink what do they do and what they need to do in this China One Belt One Road. And this is a very old Chinese saying: if you want to get rich, build the road. Okay, so what does this mean? When we look at whatever country, if you do not have a road, you cannot connect. If you do not have a road, you cannot trade. You cannot send goods from one to another. So the Belt and Road is based on this very fundamental concept to connect. Okay, so they have 2 roads we are talking about, the Belt and Road. One is from the land, another one from the maritime. When we ask when is this Belt and Road actually started, it started 2,300 years ago. Yeah, look, a lot of people thinking that this is a new initiative. No, they started 2,300 years ago. Why we call them Silk Road? Because they sell silk. They transport silk from China to Iran, now to Iran, and even to Italy. This is the road they are doing. Okay, so since 2000 is a very old road. And then now what the China do is that that time, can you imagine 2,300 years ago is very difficult. Now they have multiple connections in order to make all the distance shorter between the land. So the marine time was a problem due to the China 500-600 years ago. They closed China. They isolate China. Okay, and then at the same time, the European started to come. 15th, 16th century, they come via the marine time. And then this is expanded. Now think about it. Now Asia, India, Middle East, and Africa. When we look at the map, it's actually one big piece of land. One big piece of land. Now, if you build a lot of inland road from China to everywhere, actually they save a lot of time. Okay, I have a typical example that I built transformer in Chongqing. Do you know Chongqing? You want to park in the southwestern side. So when we want to transport the transformer to Germany, what do? We transport via Yangtze River to Shanghai, and then from Shanghai all the way down to Malaysia, go up to Strait of Malacca, via India, and go up to Germany. How long is that take? 60 to 90 days. Now, this road is connected via the train. How long do we need to take to Germany? 16 days. There's a lot of saving, and possibly it's good for the environment as well. It's saving, faster, more connected. Now, when we look at Korea, South Korea again, what do we do with this one? It's difficult. If you want to use these things, you have to go via North Korea, or you continue to go to China to transport. So there's a lot of competition in this area. Okay, so we call it the Far East, like Sweden is Far West. So we're in the Far East side. So let's see what the Korea is going to do in order to remain competitive in the future with this initiative. It's a strong commitment from Xi Jinping in this Belt and Road. So I don't think they are going to let go. I believe that there's still a lot of problem in between, but they will continue to drive this piece here. And the third one is that it's a Korea. This is, before that I did not know that. After 2 years here, I really find that the Korea is the most homogeneous society in the world, possibly. In South Korea, or including North Korea, possibly 99% are Korean. This made me think, I lived in China for 20 over years, and my kids are all in international school. Korean, we have a lot of Korean, 25% are Korean, past me. So I went to the school, usually they group together. They are not so much able to help.
Open up, embrace other countries.
Yeah, you don't. So if you go there, so a group of Korean, they eat Korean food. So it's a little bit isolated. So I think that in this case that I think the Koreans need to think, do they want to continue to be a Korean or to become a more global citizen? With this kind of a connected world, the world is getting smaller. So you are already isolated. So if you're too much Korean, possibly you are being isolated even further. So that is one of the things that possibly we have to watch. So we have to embrace, like European Union we are talking about. They have 5, and then they have unity and then possibly the speed again. But anyway, so something that we need to look into it. And for the 5G, so we have a superpower of just China. So they are very fast. They have quantities of a population there. They have all the value chain, business value chain in China. So they have all the possibility to have a good test case in 5G. So even bigger than anyone in the world. So possibly India is large population, but they do not have this technology. So we have to watch that this 5G future technology possibly is one of the very important elements that the whole world new order will change. And in this respect, I think that new, Xi Jinping also said that the new, Li-Keqiang is talking about new normal. Now every day is new normal. So when Donald Trump tweet is another new normal. Tweet again, another new normal. So the new normal is, you have a newer normal. We have to live with this kind of dynamic. So it's not settled down. I don't know how long it's going to settle, but it's not going to settle in short terms. And this is all going to have a business impact, either the good way or the bad way. So the very big company today may extinct. A very small startup company will become a conglomerate. Let's see. So that is a change that we have to work on. Another one is the Korean National Assembly. I think that Korean National Assembly has to work better. So they have a lot to do. They need to do regulation or deregulation. They have a lot to do, but they don't do anything. So they don't even able to do that. Now, I'm not commenting about this one because I'm suffering as a business. Okay, if you don't regulate or deregulate, you are stuck. We cannot do it. So we have to depend on this piece of regulation here. I just think, for example, now for very soon, I just say very soon, we will become the car will be autonomous. Can you imagine that one? The car will be autonomous. There's no driver. No driver. The car can come and go anytime. So in this aspect, the new city government need a new way to manage this type of autonomous car in the city. We call smart city. Okay. So do you have a talent? No talent. Are you going to train now? Don't know. Nobody is talking about that one. So this is a very important university topic. How are we going to get ready when the technology is ready? How are you going to manage this city? We have to talk about that one. I just give one more simple example. If you have an autonomous car, do you need traffic light? You do not need traffic light. Am I right? It's autonomous. If you need traffic light, that is not autonomous. The autonomous means that they can sense everything around you. So the traffic light will be obsolete. Now, just in case the autonomous car hits someone by accident, who is responsible? There's no driver. The car. Who is the car? Do we sue KT, SKT, or LTU Plus because you are providing this one? Who actually responsible? Or Huawei. This is exactly the question. So, as I say, KT, I use Huawei. Is Huawei responsible? How do you make him accountable? There's a new regulation, a new way they need to think. It's coming very soon here. So I believe that the lawmakers have a lot to do. A lot to do, and then the university have a lot to do in order to really train the talent that we need to manage the future world. Okay, and then another one is a low birth rate. Is Alafina. It's getting older. Possibly technology can help. Let's see how it can help. So give birth more. my secretary, when I came here 2 years. So when I arrived, she told me she was pregnant. Okay, so pregnant. So deliver one baby. So after more than 1 year, she came back and she told me she's pregnant again. This time 3. So within 2 years, she delivered 3 baby. So she contributed greatly to Korea population. Okay, and the last one is the economics of South Korea really controlled by travel. So what do we do with this one? So it's an overly dependence on the few very big group. So in this respect, that I also feel that this big group is a very big. A lot of university students, they would still want to go to these few big groups. And sometimes, you know, I think that the talent in Korea is trapped by a too smaller group. You get what I mean? So you have a lot of good talents here, but it's trapped by these things. So I think that somehow that we do not know we have a smarter way to manage this one. And I believe that the Korean talent is not totally unlocked in this perspective. And I think that this talent we need that in order to really to solve all these problems that we see now. It's very real. Okay, I stop here, and thank you very much.